A third day of our multi-day severe threat, and we've got plenty of ingredients in play, obviously, to bring us the severe weather that we're seeing right now and that we will continue to see later. So today, best chance of severe weather from parts of Missouri into Illinois, into Kentucky and Tennessee. This includes Metro Nashville and Paducah. So we get into some pretty populated areas here across the Tennessee Valley into the Midwest. A position of upper level winds is producing some increased lift. So we've got that air diverging. That's providing the lift, so that air fills up that void, and those strong upper jet stream winds off to the north and to the south help produce that. We've got that warm front too, and a lot of times we watch for that extra bit of turn around our warm front boundaries. That's also allowing winds out of the south, and what those southerly winds are going to do, bump up the moisture, bump up the warmth. So that increases our available energy across the area. As energy spreads northward, it will feed and fuel thunderstorm development, and we'll see more potent thunderstorms take over through the second half of today and tonight. Increasing winds aloft with speed will also be turning with height. So that change in direction with height, of course, wind shear, change in wind speed or direction with height is what allows for storms to rotate, those tornadoes. So tornado threat increasing this afternoon across sections of Missouri and Illinois. And again, why we've already got one region under that tornado watch. Could see more with torcons as high as a 5 today. We've got a 5 for Springfield, 5 for Paducah, and a 5 for Nashville. A lot of 3 out there. Huntsville, Alabama, Little Rock down towards Dallas. And as far east as Asheville, North Carolina, where we've got some thunderstorms off to your north, torcon is 2. So an isolated risk of a tornado into the mountains of western North Carolina. I know you go, I'm in the mountains, the chances are slim. Not out of the question. Damaging wind threat, though, will be an issue. We saw that with that storm into eastern Tennessee. That thing was warned for 80-mile-per-hour winds earlier today. Damaging wind gusts likely out of our storms this evening. So we're going to have another complex rolling through. These could be these storms within the complex could be packing quite a wind punch. So be prepared for possible power outages. Have a flashlight, have your cell phones charged, have what you need to keep yourself comfortable through a power outage, because I think those numbers will go up. 75-mile-an-hour or greater winds possible in that white outline zone. Where I think we see the greatest likelihood of the damaging winds is going to be in parts of Missouri, southern Illinois, western parts of Kentucky, and then north and west parts of Tennessee, again, including Metro Nashville. Threat for 1 inch or greater diameter hail from middle Tennessee back into Texas. This includes Dallas. This includes Little Rock and areas inside that white outlined area, 2 inch or greater diameter hail. So that gets us into that egg size or lime size or larger. So that's the really kind of damaging hail that's going to make a mess of your roof or your vehicle. Afternoon hours, we've got first complex of thunderstorms rolling through. You can see it really grows in size. The coverage is going to go way up through the afternoon. So an absolute mess on the radar. Very heavy rain for the late day drive and for your evening hour. So if you've got plans out there this evening, be prepared for just awful road conditions. We get to 11 o'clock. Now our next storm's coming into Asheville, coming into the upstate of South Carolina, North Georgia, northern parts of Alabama, back into Texas and Arkansas. We've got a complex there. And take a look at this cluster of heavy rain and storms just rolling east through the overnight hours. Going to be absolutely pouring across parts of Tennessee, across parts of North and South Carolina through the overnight hours. And tomorrow morning could be a pretty potent line working towards a place like Atlanta. Mike, morning commute on Thursday might be an absolute mess.
Yeah, it looks really ugly, doesn't it?
The 95 quarter tomorrow morning, or really, I guess I should say the 85 quarter. I think a lot of like Atlanta to Greenville up towards Charlotte. That's going to be the active spot for the morning drive. D.C., though, you've got some showers to start the day. Greatest likelihood of flash flooding into tomorrow morning, focused into sections of Tennessee and Kentucky. But tomorrow, with our front hanging out around the East Coast, we've got to watch for at least scattered thunderstorms. Some of those could become punchy in areas around and east of D.C. That includes the Delmarva, almost the entire state of Delaware, all the way down through our southeastern states. Likelihood of severe weather back into parts of Texas. This includes Waco, Dallas, that very populated I-35 corridor. So that's an area where severe weather will likely develop. There's our low, and you can see why. So the whole cold front helping to trigger severe weather for the east and southeast, and then our low, of course, just upping the ante across parts of Texas. We got a ton of moisture to work with. No issues out of the Gulf of Mexico. Very high energy for storm development. Again, that includes parts of Texas, the Gulf Coast, getting into the southeast. But that upper level disturbance will trigger the thunderstorm development. Again, why there's a little higher likelihood into parts of Texas as opposed to the southeast. But watch tomorrow night as that that cluster of thunderstorms that will be on the stronger side continues to move east. Could produce some hail, some gusty winds, and very, very heavy rain. So I think water issues will also be a problem. Threat for 1 inch or greater diameter hail. I-35 corridor is going to be the spot to mainly watch. Again, that's where you get into the really large stuff, but possible to get severe criteria hail all the way from the mid-Atlantic down through the southeast and Gulf Coast. Flash flooding. I mentioned how heavy the rain's going to be out of this complex or cluster of thunderstorms. I think the best chance will be that eastern Texas to western Alabama corridor. But Mike, any of these storms, especially when we talk about like Atlanta, Charlotte, D.C., where there's a lot of pavement, that's where we could see some water problems just out of a thunderstorm.
Yeah, all kinds of urban
underground. This is why we always stress, get to shelter. You're hiding behind the check-in desk there at that hotel. Now, hotels do have better places to be. I think they kind of just ran out of time, but obviously you want to get to that secure spot. I know Justin Michaels has been out there. He was saying at his hotel, they had that conference room or that office room in the lowest level, Justin, that they have available to guests. Now, obviously, you continue to follow the story there in Barnsdall in the aftermath of this tornado.
memories, right? Yeah. Appreciate Justin's report, and we, of course, be checking back in with Justin, giving us more updates on what's happening there in Barnsdall. But welcome back in, everyone. You're watching Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. We've got another day of severe weather, unfortunately. We've got tornado watches, severe thunderstorm watches, warnings currently in effect, and we think those numbers are only going to go up from here.
There are a lot of areas that are being impacted already, and it may last for several more hours right through the evening tonight. You take a look at the maps that we've got behind us here. It's going to be a tornado threat. It's going to be a wind threat. It's going to be a hail threat. All modes of severe weather there, and there's going to be a flood risk as well.
Yeah, a lot of heavy rain, so water an issue, especially when you talk about places like western North Carolina where we've got a lot of terrain.
Sure.
So upstate South Carolina as well. Also cause widespread damage across the area, destroying homes and other structures and knocking out power to thousands of people. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer declared a state of emergency for Kalamazoo County. CBS News correspondent Roxana Sabari has the very latest from hard-hit Portage. From the mid-Atlantic all the way down to the southeast. Now, greatest likelihood would be from places like Dallas and Austin, I-35 corridor, but notice Storm Prediction Center has now extended that likely zone through Louisiana, through Mississippi, through Alabama, into Georgia, even the low country of South Carolina. This now includes Montgomery and Jackson and Atlanta, especially the south side. And you know what's on the south side of Atlanta? Hartsfield-Jackson International. So could see some flight issues out there tomorrow, especially when you're dealing with such a major airport getting in on strong storms. Tomorrow evening, there's that cold front, tons of moisture in place. We get the storms going, lots of energy to work with. And this complex, this cluster moves east as we finish off the evening and night. Texas, 104 is the forecast. The record is 97. That should be an absolute smash. New Orleans, I think you're going to tie your record, 91. Orlando, forecast to be near triple digits. 98 would tie the record. Daytona Beach, 96 would break a record. And in Jacksonville, mid-90s for your highs. That's going to put you very close to the daily record. Now, tomorrow, heat risk is present, especially South Texas and parts of Florida. You notice we get into that major heat risk. So this is the kind of heat that's going to take a toll on you, especially if you're spending time outside doing any kind of work. So roofers, those folks who might be out working on roads, things. If you're out there baking in the sun, landscaping, these are the kind of jobs where you got to start to think about the heat stress and what it can do to you. Minor issues all the way up into parts of the Tennessee Valley. Forecast highs, low 90s for New Orleans, upper 80s Houston. But look at parts of Florida, Jacksonville, again, in the mid-90s. We get those temperatures into the upper 90s for places like Orlando. So you get in the middle part of the state, head to those theme parks, and it's going to be absolutely sweltering in those lines. Late week, 116 million people below average. So we will see some changes across the Southwest and across the Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, and Northeast. So in the wake of that front, temperatures dropping for some. Saturday, we do have some below average temperatures, so some changes. But notice a lot of that warmth stays located in Florida and parts of the South. So 5 to 10 degrees below average into the Midwest, into the Northeast. Tomorrow, near average, if not a little bit above average, farther south. Again, we keep those above average temperatures Friday in Florida. But now in the wake of the front, especially across western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, mountains of West Virginia, western Virginia, and then up into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Highs will be 10, 15 plus degrees below average. So some noticeable departures. Saturday, again, heat stays in Florida. We've got cooler temperatures across parts of West Texas. We've got cooler temperatures for much of the east. Again, with that front finally moving through. Dew points, they will be dropping farther behind that front, back into the 50s tomorrow in St. Louis, Nashville. You'll see those dew points drop into the 40s. And even in the wake of the front Friday evening, Atlanta, dew points into the upper 40s. So much drier air. Not going to be one of those days where you walk outside and your hair curls up or you start sweating immediately. Raleigh, North Carolina, average high 78. Obviously today, tomorrow we are above that mark, but that closer to average and drier, Mike, for the end of the week and weekend.
All right, Alex, thank you as well. So we've got you covered here on Weather Underground. Glad you could be with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. A very active day once again. We've got our storm tracker, Charles Peak. He's out on the road. Not good timing by any means. That multi-day severe weather outbreak began on Monday. It continues today, and we're talking about the days with bigger threats. Remember, we had torcons of 9 on Monday, 5 yesterday, 5 again today. So very likely that severe weather is present today from parts of Missouri, Illinois, getting into Kentucky and Tennessee. Nashville, one of the areas that has already seen some storms today. You've got more on the way. Big likely zone, that darker shade of red. I think we'll see widespread severe weather in that zone as well. And even outside of that, getting in on some of those stronger storms. By the way, this continues into tomorrow. This afternoon, here's what we've got. Energy on the build because we've got that southerly flow. Moisture being pumped in. Temperatures are also warm. That warm front is going to be lifting off to the north. That, of course, brings the southerly surface winds. And we usually watch these warm frontal boundaries. A lot of times you can see more tornado warnings or tornadoes spin up along those fronts. Increasing the tornado threat is also those winds aloft. So they're increasing in speed. They're also turning in direction. They're going to turn southwesterly aloft. And again, that gives us that turning of winds with height. We saw that yesterday across parts of Michigan and Ohio, and today it's present across sections of the Tennessee Valley up into sections of, say, Missouri, Arkansas, and southern parts of Illinois. I always wonder what this area is called. It's not quite the plains. It's not quite the Midwest. I guess it's like the southern Midwest. 3 for McAlester, Oklahoma, 3 for Little Rock. Those are your torcon values. Same for Memphis, but notice you had a little north. 5 out of 10. That's where, again, tornado watches would likely be issued. We've already got some tornadoes. Possible, too likely. I think we're going to see at least some, and some of these could be on the stronger long track side. Paducah, Nashville, and Springfield, some of the communities that have that torcon of 5 today. There's a look at what the radar could look like this afternoon and evening. So I think we're going to see a big cluster of thunderstorms. I think embedded in there, we've got some big wind producers. We've got some hail. We've already seen that in parts of Missouri today. And again, some embedded tornadoes. Very heavy rain across the board could lead to flooding problems. So Weather Prediction Center highlighting areas where we could see flash flooding or river flooding. The small creeks and streams, got to watch for those. And of course, the urban areas, Nashville, you guys get some of those big time thunderstorms. You're going to have water problems where there's a lot of pavement. 75-mile-per-hour greater winds possible in this zone outlined in white. In the pink, that's where the wind is very likely. So at this point, have phones charged, have your devices charged, you know, the ones that the kids like to watch, the video games or the TV shows. Have a flashlight nearby. You don't want to be using candles. Be prepared to go without power. That's the best way to, you know, keep power, is to assume you're not going to have it and be ready to go. 1 inch or greater diameter hail, same zone really is the best chance zone. But Mike, anywhere from Middle Tennessee back into parts of Texas, there's the potential for that very large damaging hail, 2 inches, about egg size or larger.
Yeah, it's sizable stuff here that could really cause some destruction, that's for sure.
AC. Severe weather tomorrow. Best likelihood for the areas shaded in burgundy, that red wine color from parts of Texas over to low country South Carolina. But notice D.C., the Delmarva, all the way down to the Gulf Coast near Houston. There's a good shot of severe weather. This front continues to move off towards the south. We've got a lot of moisture to work with, developing low across parts of Texas, and energy is just going to be, it's there. It's building. It's present. We're going to take advantage of it. High energy for storm development by tomorrow evening. So I think, again, we look at a complex of strong thunderstorms developing with that low. That'll slide eastward through the evening and overnight hours. Hail, gusty, damaging winds, big-time rainfall rates, possible tornadoes. But I do think it's really one of these complexes that could be a big wind maker. And hail, especially at the onset. Parts of Texas, I think that's our best chance zone for seeing some of that really large hail, and also the highest likelihood of hail, although we could see hail extend into parts of Louisiana or Mississippi. Flash flooding across the board. These storms are going to produce heavy rainfall rates. A D.C., a Richmond, a Raleigh, an Atlanta, Charlotte, Pittsburgh. Areas where we've got a lot of pavement. It doesn't take much in the way of a few potent thunderstorms or one slow mover to lead to water issues. I think where we see that complex of really heavy rain, that's where we've got a little better likelihood of the flash flooding. So parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and extreme western parts of Alabama. Future radar, watch as things get going. So we start tomorrow morning with the showers and storms around Atlanta. Then storms get going in the second half of the day around Dallas, 35 quarter to Waco. These thunderstorms roll east. We get more of a complex. Montgomery, Atlanta into Friday morning could be an absolute mess for your last workday drive of the week. Macon, low country South Carolina during the afternoon. And on Friday, we've got more thunderstorms. I think we drop the risk. So maybe Friday, more in the way of isolated severe storms. Still some severe storms, but not quite as widespread or robust as we've seen throughout most of the week. North Carolina all the way down to North Florida, the I-10 corridor, definitely in play, Mike.
All right, Alex, thanks for that.
Show new video to show you why we always stress to get it. Oklahoma, of course, one of the hardest hit areas during Monday's storms, Monday night storms. And Justin, you look at this community, a very tight-knit community. People have lived there for decades. A lot of people know each other. Still one person missing. Obviously, cleanup has been, mission number one. Absolutely. And that panic, I'm sure, for people when they do return to their home or they come out and they go, oh, my gosh, that one item that I want to find. And if you can't, it's really discouraging. Again, it's the little victories after a storm like that.
Absolutely, Justin. You think about these people, like your home is like this 3D scrapbook of your life.
Yeah.
Right? That's really how I would think of it. All these little mementos that give you memories of your life, Justin. So to lose those in an instant is very jarring.
Right, and we talked to Jack and Diane Miller on this street.
Understandably so, in these traumatic situations, you do what needs to get done, and then you really unpack it later.
Sure. Justin, thank you. We're going to have more with Justin throughout the show, so we hope you can stay tuned for his reports. Obviously, severe weather is there again today. In fact, we've got numerous states under either severe thunderstorm watches or tornado watches. Torcons as high as a 5 today. Oh, but by the way, huge hail and destructive winds are possible as well.
Literally everything's on the table. Very heavy rain could lead to flash flooding as well. One of the areas that we're watching, Asheville, also led to widespread damage across the area, destroying homes and other structures and knocking out power to thousands of people. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer declared a state of emergency for Kalamazoo County. CBS News correspondent Roxana Saberi has the latest from hard-hit Portage. Counties under a severe thunderstorm warning. We got a considerable threat tag on this one because of 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Right now, this is roaring through Rutherfordton in North Carolina. I-40 south of town. This is going to head towards Shelby, the I-85 corridor there around like Kings Mountain area, and then eventually making its way towards Charlotte. The airport on the north side, so we could see some issues there at CLT. If that's on your boarding pass, you got a layover. Be prepared for some possible ground stops and then delays after the fact. This warning in effect until 3:45. Morganton also in the path of this one. So Forest City, Gastonia, you're going to be dealing with this storm 3:34 local time. Charlotte just after the top of the 4 o'clock hour. So we've got a little ways to go, but within the next hour, things really starting to go downhill. We've got the storms into parts of the upstate of South Carolina. Greenville, you're about to get smacked by one. Back into western Kentucky, parts of Missouri, we've got more warnings in effect. Likelihood for severe weather tomorrow again includes Charlotte, again includes a place like Atlanta. You're going to see some thunderstorms overnight and into tomorrow morning. Texas all the way towards the low country of South Carolina. That's our best chance zone tomorrow for severe weather. So another active day coming your way on Thursday. Florida and along the Gulf Coast as we move into tomorrow. So Thursday highs. How about Brownsville? 104 is the forecast. The record is 97. I don't even think it's going to be close. I think you easily smash that record. New Orleans would tie at 91. Orlando would tie at 98. Going to be a very hot one at the theme parks. Daytona Beach, 96 would beat your record of 94. In Jacksonville, 95 the forecast. 96 is the record. So we're going to be awfully close. Tomorrow, the heat risk is major across south parts of Texas, also into sections of Florida. So got to keep that in mind if you're going to be outside working. Start to think about heat precautions, breaks in the shade, better yet the AC, drinking lots of water, staying hydrated. Thursday highs, New Orleans again, 91. We've got 82 in Atlanta after some morning thunderstorms, but 95 in Jacksonville. You can see the front doesn't quite make it to you guys. Now into the weekend, temperatures will be dropping behind that front. So by Sunday, parts of even South Texas will see a little bit of moderation to those temperatures. So a little good news for you if you're like, It's a little hot, a little soon. 5 to 10 degrees below average across the Midwest on Friday. More significant departures into parts of the mountains and the northeast cities in eastern Pennsylvania, upstate New York and New England. Then on Saturday, again, keeping the cool across the east. Warmer temperatures start to build in across the northern plains, edging into the Great Lakes by Sunday. But for Mother's Day, a lot of areas in the east and across the south central will be anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees below average. Dew points dropping, so the humidity going down. Take a look at Thursday afternoon into the 50s for St. Louis and Nashville. On Friday evening, you're going to notice those dew points really dropping in Atlanta and in Raleigh, edging farther to the south, even into sections of extreme North Florida's panhandle by the start of the weekend, Mike.
All right, Alex, thank you for that. So maybe cooling.
And coming up, our coverage continues here on the Weather Channel. Our team at Storm Center has you covered.
Evening. Thanks for being with us on Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. It is a dangerous day once again. Day 3 of significant Torcon values. A 5 today. Places like Nashville currently under a tornado. Charlotte and Lake Norman always super, super busy there. So that could cause a lot of travel troubles, not to mention the airports there as well. Well, one of the areas that could be in the bullseye for potential severe storms and flooding is Springfield, Missouri. That's where we find meteorologist Molly McCullum. Molly, we have been traversing all along the Gulf Coast into parts of the plains, now parts of Missouri, following this severe weather threat. And again, today has a little bit of everything: the hail, the wind, the flooding, all of it. Always good to get it during the daylight hours, when people are still awake, alert, paying attention. We're going to get back to Molly McCullum in just a bit there in Springfield, Missouri, of course, talking about today's overall picture. Why do we have such a significant threat, and why is it focused into parts of Missouri, southern Illinois, Tennessee, and Kentucky? Well, we've got the upper level winds, and the position of those produce an area of increased lift. So we got a little bit of divergence, and the air rises to fill that. We've got strong upper jet stream winds off to the north, off to the south. Our area of low pressure, our warm front draped over the area. A lot of times we watch these warm fronts for a little extra area of spin. Also, energy, it's on the increase. We've got southerly flow that is drawing in that Gulf of Mexico moisture. We know what that does. We've also got warm temperatures. So again, available energy for these storms to work with has been building. And with all that moisture too, we're going to produce some really heavy rainfall rates out of some of these storms. Increasing the tornado threat is the turning of winds with height. So winds aloft turn southwesterly. They also increase in speed, and that's that shear that we talk about, one of the severe weather factors. Torcons today in the 5 zone for Nashville, Paducah, and Springfield, where Molly McCullum is. We've got a lot of torcons of 3. So again, at least the chance of scattered tornadoes. I think in that 5 zone, you anticipate tornado watches. Obviously, we've already got those. And I do think we'll see tornadoes, some of which could be on the stronger side. We had it on Monday, of course, with that Torcon of 9. Even yesterday, a Torcon of 5 day. We show what we can do across places like Ohio and Michigan. And this evening, our strong mid-level winds will increase the coverage. So expect to see a very busy radar picture during the second half of Storm Center into our evening coverage. Damaging wind threat will go up as well, because you've got these clusters of thunderstorms, these big complexes that can produce some really intense winds and produce some really intense rainfall rates. Threat for damaging wind today, greatest likelihood in the areas in pink. Anybody in that hashed white zone could see winds gusting 75 miles an hour or greater. So that gets us into Category 1 Category 1 hurricane force. So we're looking at, really, really potent wind gusts. 1 inch or greater diameter hail from parts of Texas over into Tennessee. The best chance of hail in the areas in the pink. But keep in mind, we've seen some epic hail already in western North Carolina. You're just in the possible zone. So it goes to show you, you don't have to be in that best chance zone to see the effects. Obviously, these storms today, really potent hail makers, wind makers, and as you'll see later on, rain makers. So watch as the radar gets very busy. We've got these complexes, clusters of thunderstorms through the overnight and into tomorrow morning. Could be an absolute mess of a Thursday commute for parts of, say, southern Tennessee, North Georgia, northern Alabama, western North Carolina. Mike, a mess to start the day tomorrow.
It's going to get really, really...
At least the Gulf Coast states, southeastern states into South Texas, or South Texas, North Texas, around the I-35 corridor, South Central, what I'm trying to say. So really anywhere Dallas to Austin over towards the low country of South Carolina. That's going to be our best chance zone. But you see severe weather gets up into parts of the Delmarva, nation's capital. So Washington, D.C., Baltimore, you'll be watching for some of that active weather as well. Cold front moving southeast, still have that Gulf of Mexico moisture and no lack of it. So a high amount of energy for storm development, developing low back off towards the west. And these disturbances will help to lead to more thunderstorm development. I think tomorrow afternoon and then through the evening, we get another one of these big-time clusters of thunderstorms that can produce hail and gusty winds and really heavy rainfall rates. I think as we move farther and farther to the east, wind takes over as the main threat. So the best chance of hail is going to be parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, but especially back into Texas where we could see that really large hail. The wind threat will extend farther to the east. Possibility of flash flooding really anywhere along that front, especially where we've got a lot of pavement. So the big metros like in Atlanta, you get some heavy rain and you're going to have water problems. But the best chance of flash flooding, Shreveport to Jackson to Alexandria. Watch as things transpire. Start the day with scattered showers and thunderstorms, or that complex from today and tonight working through the southeast. Now tomorrow afternoon, we've got the next cluster developing, continuing east through the late evening and overnight. Very heavy rain, hail, and again, I think damaging winds take over into the start of Friday. Well, coming up on the show, we're going to show you some pretty unpopulated areas or really urban areas where there's a lot of pavement. That water's standing. So we watch some of those big cities. Nashville would be a spot to watch here through the rest of today. Rainfall to come. Paducah could see over an inch. Bowling Green anywhere from 1 to 3+ inches. So areas could see 3, 4, 5 inches of rain between now and tomorrow morning with some of these repeated rounds of thunderstorms moving through these complexes of storms. Flood alerts are posted. We've got flood watches from Cincinnati down into parts of Tennessee. Rainfall over the last 7 days. Many areas have exceeded 3 inches. That's the yellow. The orange is over 5 inches of rain. So again, grounds are prime. Best chance of flash flooding through tomorrow morning. Areas in yellow. Obviously showing you the north side of town where we've got the storms, and the city itself going to get in on some active weather. Virtual view, the rain, the thunderstorms, expect it all as we finish off today and move into tonight. So when we look at the timing for you guys in Nashville, of course, we've got the activity on the north side now. Torcon of 5, very likely that we see damaging winds and large hail across the Nashville area, in addition to that chance of some tornadoes. Through tomorrow morning, flash flooding also a likelihood. So the really heavy rain that these storms are going to produce could lead to water problems, will likely lead to water problems, especially downtown where we've just got a lot of pavement, so you get a lot of runoff. This afternoon through the evening, you can see a lot of the activity stays on the north side of town until about mid-evening. Then overnight, things really get going for you guys around Nashville. It's persistent heavy rain, it's thunderstorms, again, hail, gusty winds, perhaps a tornado, all the way into the commute time for your Thursday. St. Louis, a Torcon of 3, but a likelihood of damaging winds and large hail there. For their parking spot, too. I think they found it.
They found it quick before the hail, yeah.
Absolutely. Molly, thank you so much. Molly McCullum there in Springfield. We're going to be checking back in with her, of course, one of the areas watching for the storms. Charlotte, of course, dealing with storms. We again look at a place like Charlotte, Atlanta, Raleigh, up towards D.C. and the Delmarva. Greatest likelihood, though, those areas in Burgundy. So across the southeast and south central U.S., Dallas all the way to the low country, these are spots with a little higher chance of seeing some of the severe weather. Tomorrow evening, we've got our cold front, area of low pressure. We've got a lot of energy. We got a lot of Gulf of Mexico moisture. So storms get going across parts of Texas. Big hail, big wind likely out of these. Then we get a complex developing. I think wind will take over as the big threat, along with very heavy rain through the overnight. Tomorrow, again, greatest risk of hail into the south central, but look at the flash flooding risk really anywhere across the east and south. Greatest possibility in the darker green. Things on the western flank on the west and north side of Springfield, Missouri. So that's one of the areas that, of course, is going to be in the bullseye for severe storms in the short term. That's where we find our meteorologist, Molly McCullum. Molly, we've got those storms again edging in from the west, all threats on the table. And you've also pointed out that it's been soggy and we could see flooding problems on top of all that. Plans outside, so I think the weather will be much more cooperative. Of course, have to get through all of this. Molly, thank you so much. I know her little one's going to be really excited to see her when she gets home, too. Today, best chance of severe weather from areas around Springfield down into Middle Tennessee. Again, very likely there, but there's a lot of zones that will likely see the severe stuff from parts of western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, all the way back into northeast Texas. Again, this is today. We got more coming tomorrow. This morning, we had those winds, the upper level jet stream winds. We can see a little bit of a split in that, and that provides an area or produces an area of increased lift in between that. And so that, along with a warm front, going to be that area where the storms really get going. And that's exactly what we've already seen today. We've got available storm energy. We've got a lot of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. And we also have winds increasing with speed and turning with height. And that is allowing for that tornado threat. Again, torcons are in that 5 zone for a lot of areas, including Nashville, Paducah, and Springfield. So where Molly is, all the way to Middle Tennessee, best risk for tornadoes. And that's when we've got the active tornado watches. So follows very much in line with where the Storm Prediction Center has been focused on. Strong mid-level winds will increase the storm coverage. So we've seen already the development and the coverage on the radar really building. And that's also going to help to fuel a severe weather threat in terms of gusty, damaging winds through the late evening and overnight. I do think that that becomes the primary mode. I think at least over the next few hours, it's more hail, it's more tornado risk, but damaging winds as these clusters or complexes of storms move to the south and east. 75-mile-an-hour or greater winds. We've already seen it today out of some of our warnings. Very well could see it more today and tonight. 1 inch or greater diameter hail, best chance in the area of pink, but anywhere in that white outlined area, you guys could see hail lime or egg size or larger. We've seen 3-inch diameter hail into western North Carolina, so not limited to those areas. Those are the best chance areas. Here's the coverage again this afternoon and evening. It has been expanding. It's been very messy on the radar. So again, very, very heavy rain also associated with these storms and rounds of heavy rain. And that's why we're also concerned about flooding. We get you into the late evening. Now we look at complex number 1, complex number 2. Both continue to slide south into Thursday morning, south and east. So a tough morning for a Nashville, for a Charlotte, for an Atlanta. I think you guys are all going to be seeing soaking and stormy conditions to get out on the roads on Thursday. Mike?
All right, so let's break down.
They're underground, including some incredible video. Why we always stress Nashville. Honestly, we take the sun down. I think it's more of an overnight threat here in Metro Nashville, north of town. Obviously, that's where we've got the storms right now. Let's time it out for you and take a look at the future radar. Again, we keep a lot of the activity to the north of Nashville, that north central part of Tennessee over the next few hours. But with a torcon of 5, very likely wind and hail, and very likely that we look at flash flooding issues. So across Middle Tennessee, yeah, we've got some scattered showers, thunderstorms for the late day drive time, dinner time hours. But watch as that complex, that cluster comes in overnight, continues through a lot of the sleeping hours. That's when the rain will really pile up. And so tomorrow morning could see big problems for that morning drive. St. Louis, torcon of 3, likely damaging winds and large hail.